Now enjoy this fun photo collage of some of your favorite stars and politicians who speak about the need to reduce our carbon footprint, but who are always on private planes. That's right, all of them. If you don't see a celebrity's picture here, it's because we weren't allowed to use it. Or their series got canceled.
Maher just delivered a blistering masterclass in comedy, a full-scale takedown of Hollywood's self-righteous elite. I've said it countless times, when you trust these so-called woke icons, you're signing up for a front-row seat to hypocrisy in motion. Their double standards are so thick you could spread them like butter, and even the devil himself would need a rinse after watching that mess. Maher spared no one. From Bernie Sanders' socialism for thee, but not for me routine to George Clooney's silky moral lectures, every sanctimonious pose was torched with precision. It wasn't cruel, Abi said, it was cathartic. Frankly, this reckoning was long overdue. So grab your snacks, because this isn't just comedy, it's poetic justice delivered with a smirk. And something tells me the encore is going to be even better.
Humans are not good people. It's just not in us, including me. And I'm tired of living well, not a lie, but it's also something I never mention, but it's a new year, and I'd like to come clean. My name is Bill, and I fly private. And so does every other person who calls themselves an environmentalist who can.
Maher opened the show with a wink, admitting he's all for saving the planet, right before joking that he flies private classic. That's the kind of eco-hypocrisy we've come to expect. Hollywood's self-proclaimed guardians of the earth, preaching carbon guilt from 30,000 feet up in the sky, are the perfect picture of irony. These folks can quote climate studies in their sleep, hashtag slogans like poets, and still treat activism as a fashion accessory. For them, saving the planet often looks more like saving their public image. It's environmentalism rebranded for PR, not principle. And then came Maher's turn. Sharp, unapologetic, and beautifully cynical, he gave the moralizing elite exactly what they'd been asking for, a verbal wake-up call wrapped in laughter and truth.
Politicians who speak about the need to reduce our carbon footprint, but who are always on private planes. That's right, all of them. If you don't see a celebrity's picture here, it's because we weren't allowed to use it. Or their series got canceled. But all the environmentalists of Hollywood and Washington do it. Their position on climate change is, we must do more to stop pouring carbon into the air, except for me when I want to go somewhere and then I take a private jet.
That's exactly why it's impossible to take these people seriously once the cameras stop rolling. Most of them raise awareness by cashing enormous checks. A polished way of saying I'm building my brand, but let's pretend it's noble. Even the ones who insist it's all out of compassion aren't fooling anyone. That's not virtue. It's vanity dressed up in recycled packaging. Let's be honest, they're not out to save the planet. They're out to protect their image. The sprawling mansions, the fleets of Teslas, the private jets, all part of a carefully curated illusion of righteousness. And then there's Bernie Sanders, the self-proclaimed champion of the common man, clinking glasses of champagne with the same wealthy elites he spent his career condemning. The irony practically writes itself.
But all the environmentalists of Hollywood and Washington do it. Their position on climate change is, we must do more to stop pouring carbon into the air, except for me when I want to go somewhere and then I take a private jet. It turns out there is one thing in this world that is completely impossible to resist, and this is it.
It's almost funny when you think about it. Most of the celebrities Maher called out are the same ones who loudly champion the Democratic Party and never miss a chance to gush over Kamala Harris. When the spotlight's on, they're the ultimate eco-warriors, armed with hashtags and heartfelt speeches. For 2 decades, their party's favorite slogan, Save the Planet, has echoed from award stages, red carpets, and social media feeds. But after all that noise, what's actually changed? Absolutely nothing. The private jets still fill the skies, emissions keep climbing, and the planet keeps suffering. Why? Because it was never about real progress, only performance. These stars don't practice activism, they perform it. They don't live their values, they advertise them. Accountability isn't their goal. Applause is. They crave retweets, headlines, and validation. Supporting causes has become just another role to play. Memorize the script, strike the pose, bask in the praise, then head home in an SUV that could double as a small apartment.
It turns out there is one thing in this world that is completely impossible to resist, and this is it. It's like heroin. If you do it once, you'll never stop. There are two kinds of people in the world, those who fly private and those who would if they could.
Bill Maher's just telling the truth, and honestly, I'm right there with him. If someone offered me a seat on a private jet, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. Who would? It's fast, quiet, and blissfully free of TSA pat-downs and screaming toddlers. No endless lines, no questionable chicken dinners that taste like damp cardboard, and no middle seats designed by someone who clearly hated humanity. Let's face it, flying commercial these days feels less like travel and more like punishment. Private jets, on the other hand, are the dream. Comfort, peace, and sanity wrapped into one smooth takeoff. Being able to set your own schedule, fly directly where you need to go, and actually stretch your legs. That's luxury done right. So, no, Maher isn't saying private jets are evil. The problem isn't flying, it's pretending to be an environmental hero while sipping champagne at 40,000 feet. That's when the shiny halo starts to crack and fall apart.
A third category, those who could but do not, does not exist. Except for Ed Begley and Greta Thunberg. And that's why you never see a picture of her smiling. Ed and Greta, that's who walks the walk. Everyone else is full of and I'm done being full of.
And honestly, I've had enough of the Hollywood environmentalists who scold the world about carbon emissions while practically living on private jets. In stark contrast, Greta actually lives her message. She's not just talk, she acts. She sails across oceans, takes trains, rides her bike, and chooses the harder path every time. Sure, it would be simple for her to take the easy route, hop on a plane, enjoy first-class comfort, and justify it with some fancy carbon offset excuse. But she doesn't. She walks the walk because it aligns with her values, even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, and far from glamorous. You've got to give her credit for that. Whether you agree with her or not, Greta has what most of these self-proclaimed eco-celebrities don't: the courage to live by her words.
I take being a bad environmentalist because almost all of us are, but I can't take being a hypocrite. Now, I always justified renting a plane because I only used it for work and literally could not get to most of my stand-up gigs on time any other way. How do you think I did it all those years? I said goodnight here at 8 p.m. and was on stage in Vegas at 10. But I don't need to do stand-up like tomorrow night in Albuquerque.
Sadly, that's exactly what the Democratic Party has turned into: a masterclass in selective morality and polished pretend activism. They brand themselves as the nation's moral compass, yet their convictions shift with every trending hashtag and celebrity endorsement. As long as it grabs headlines, earns applause, and guarantees another late-night talk show appearance, they'll champion causes they barely believe in. Behind the curtain, though, it's all smoke, mirrors, and carefully crafted virtue. Authentic belief has been replaced by performance. Every statement passes through a PR filter, every sentence sanitized to avoid even the faintest offense. In their frantic race to appear righteous, they've lost the one thing that actually matters: sincerity. They no longer embody moral conviction, they embody marketable opinion. Their beliefs bend to algorithms, their values circulate like memes. What once might have been a movement is now just theater, and scripted, rehearsed, and sold to the public as progress.
And outside of heads of state, almost everyone else could fly commercial. Why don't they? Ask anyone who tried to get home for Christmas last year. And don't tell me the younger generation is better. They're not. They're just poorer. They're actually worse. This is who they look up to: the family where everyone has their own private jet. And kids love Bitcoin, which, to determine the value of, takes an amount of computer processing that uses more electricity than some whole countries. Kids could have rejected that, but they didn't. They love it. Why? Because they want to be rich. Why? So they can fly private.
Maher then shifted his focus to the younger faces of the Democratic Party, and he wasn't in the mood to play nice. He highlighted the irony of a generation that prides itself on being the most climate conscious, yet keeps stumbling into the same contradictions as those they ridicule. These are the same people who sign every digital petition, attend every environmental summit, and fill their feeds with protest selfies. But, as Maher sharply observed, their passion for saving the planet isn't always rooted in moral conviction. It's often circumstantial. They care because they have to. When you're stuck in a cramped middle seat on a budget airline, it's easy to lecture others about the evils of private jets. Maher's point hit hard. If this crowd suddenly had the same wealth and luxury as the elites they criticize, they'd burn through jet fuel faster than they could tweet about sustainability. His humor was biting, but it carried truth. Maybe their activism isn't entirely ethical after all. Maybe it's just thriftiness dressed up as environmental virtue.
No one can resist it. John Kerry is our climate czar, and he uses a private jet. It's like if the Secretary of Homeland Security smuggled drugs in his butt. People take jets to environmental conferences. If you could run TED Talks on hypocrisy, you wouldn't need coal.
Exactly. At the DNC, Maher kept firing off truth bombs, and this time they landed perfectly. He called out John Kerry, the very man appointed as the president's climate envoy, for jetting around the world on a private plane. The irony couldn't be louder. You can't claim to lead the fight against carbon emissions while leaving contrails in the sky from your own luxury aircraft. It's like delivering a sobriety lecture with a martini in hand. Maher's message was sharp and undeniable. You can't preach virtue while shopping for vice. The hypocrisy here isn't just noticeable, it's Olympic level. These are the same figures who lecture middle-class Americans about shrinking their carbon footprints, yet their own emissions could power a small town for a week. What we're seeing isn't leadership, it's performance. The stage is dressed in designer suits, fueled by jet engines, and lit by the glow of moral self-importance. Behind the curtain, it's not conviction, it's choreography.
But sorry, not sorry. I tried to do my part for the environment. I never had kids. The one thing worse for the planet than private jets. It's true, because then they have kids. I had the first generation Prius in 2001. It looked like a Tylenol gel cap. I was always handing my keys to valets who were driving a better car than me. I had the first Tesla in 2010, and honestly, both these cars sucked. The Tesla came up to about here on me. If I had a hard-on, I couldn't fit in this thing.
The rest of Maher's monologue was a clever mix of humor, honesty, and just the right touch of self-congratulation. Maher at his sharpest. He even gave himself credit for doing his part in the green movement, proudly mentioning his Tesla and his genuine wish that others would make similar choices. But, as he wryly noted, most people didn't follow his lead, but in fact, many hit the brakes. It turns out that the more people learned about electric cars, the less magical they seemed. Between sky-high prices, charging stations rarer than Bigfoot sightings, and batteries that are a nightmare to recycle, the promise of clean energy starts looking a bit murky. Add to that the uncomfortable fact that most electricity still comes from fossil fuels, and the irony practically writes the punchline itself. In his signature style, Maher admitted that the green revolution hasn't exactly blossomed, it's stumbled. What began as an inspiring vision has become another reminder of how the best intentions can unravel when they collide with hard reality, and of course, a healthy dose of hypocrisy.
In 2021, 80% of new vehicles weren't electric, weren't even hybrid. They weren't even cars. They were SUVs and trucks. That's what people want. In 1973, the share of global electricity generated by coal was 38%. You know what it was 46 years later in 2019, after all the talk and all the trying? 37%. You know what percentage of plastic gets recycled? 5%. Those blue bins that are everywhere, they're not full of bottles, they're full of shit.
Contradictions in people are endlessly fascinating, and Maher captured that perfectly. We love to sound good, to talk about doing good, and to broadcast our empathy to the world. But when it comes to living those noble values, suddenly comfort wins every time. Our conscience bends to convenience. We'll post hashtags about saving the planet from smartphones built with mined metals, then hop on a quick flight to Bali for self-discovery. We'll rant about pollution online only to roll up to a drive-thru in an SUV right after. And that's exactly the point Maher hammered home throughout his monologue. From Hollywood elites sipping champagne on private jets to politicians preaching sustainability while burning fuel by the ton, the problem isn't ignorance, it's inauthenticity. No one truly wants to change, we just want the credit for wanting it. We crave applause, not accountability. The global climate movement keeps spinning in circles because of this moral gap. It's not a lack of awareness that stalls progress, it's a lack of honesty. All the summits, speeches, and hashtags mean nothing until people start living by the ideals they post about. Maher's final words were blunt, but necessary. None of us liked the reflection he held up to our faces. Whether it's Hollywood stars, political leaders, or everyday influencers, everyone's selling purity while swimming in contradiction. Until we begin to practice what we preach, truly and consistently, both the war on hypocrisy and the fight for the planet will remain unfinished. And with that, Maher closed his act with a smirk, leaving the audience both amused and uneasy. If you can handle truth served with sarcasm, he joked, then go ahead, hit that like button and stay tuned for the next dose.